Man, we got an episode for you today. Woo. Woo. First things first, welcome to CNN. I'm your host, the underdog, Kirk Kennedy. Let's go in. On this channel, we take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Today will be no different. All right, first starting off, I gotta acknowledge this. Thank you for the thumbnail love. All right, I was getting some love on the thumbnail. The funny thing was, I did the thumbnail quickly. I just did it. I had ChatGPT do it. I didn't have my glasses on, so I just liked it from what I could see, saved it, and I uploaded it. And then I started getting like, oh, the thumbnail's crazy, bro. And I was like, why are people saying that? I didn't realize that the chat made me put me in a wedding dress in the thumbnail. But I was like, all right. But I was getting a lot of love saying they love the thumbnail. So I'm not changing it. All right. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Boy, oh boy. You have to be seeing what I'm seeing. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? All right, so this is going to be a crazy episode. Stay with me to the end. Like and subscribe to the channel. All right. Candace Owens said that she was going to do a documentary covering Erica Kirk, right? Now, we've all seen since Charlie Kirk was taken from this place unalived, that Candace Owens has been the one person who has been like suspicious. And she has a big enough following, and Candace Owens is bold enough that she's been coming at it. So she had questions, receipts, a lot of stuff that Candace was saying is traditional Candace, with strength, with conviction, but not necessarily the evidence that you want, right? Unless you really trust her and follow her. So you had people on all sides. There's no evidence. This is just her saying, I know, I don't know, but I know, right? You had that, and you had people agreeing with her and doing their own research and making YouTube videos about their own questions and concerns and things like that. So this turned into a fiasco. At some point, Turning Point issued a public statement that they wanted to invite Candace Owens to some event where they would hash these things out. Candace apparently couldn't make that particular event, and they were trying to work through it. She was skeptical about the way things were set up. It ended up falling through. Well, Erica Kirk and someone else met with Candace Owens privately after that, and the word on the street was all things were good. Candace said it was a 4-hour meeting. The reports were there was a good meeting. Stuff was said. They listened to every one of her concerns. Candace Owens herself said that they owned up to some things that were not truthful. I don't have the video clip of that, but you can find it. You can find Candace Owens. She said they owned up to some things that were, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know exactly how she said it, but she basically made it seem like they acknowledged some things did look off, and that there was some responsibility taken for things that were not true. Seemed like it was a good meeting, thought this was over and done with. And then Candace kept being Candace. And now we have, today, supposedly, I don't follow her all the time, but I don't follow her like when she drops a new video, I get it. If it shows up on my YouTube timeline, then if I feel like watching it, I watch it. So today is supposed to be released a trailer about a documentary series. And remember, this is Candace Owens documentary series. And this is the first taste of it. So we're going to look at really quickly the trailer for this documentary series. But we have a lot we're going to talk about today. All right. So that we're not going to this is not just we're not going to speculate on the trailer like a lot of people are doing. We're going to dive in. I'm going to show you some things and then give you a conclusion of what I think is actually really happening here. And stay tuned if you want to. Like and subscribe because you have to. All right, here's the trailer.
President Trump says that Kirk has died after he was shot from a nearby building
after being shot at Utah Valley University.
The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead.
The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
I didn't get to give him a kiss goodbye.
That young man, I forgive him.
Take your time.
Erica Kirk has been named the new CEO of Turning Point USA.
My husband's dead. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead.
It's weird to say excited.
Describes her husband's funeral as the event of the century. Merch, hats.
We have 50,000 plus hat orders.
Nobody knows why she's out there in a glittering pantsuit in a recreated tent that her husband tragically was murdered in, throwing merch out.
Everyone leaves differently, so if someone's acting weird, don't read into that.
Zionists, the Prime Minister of Israel, all lied through their teeth about Charlie Kirk.
Her operation was in Constanta, the epicenter of Romania's trafficking scandal.
We learned conversations to have with a 15-year-old. I'm going to touch your butt.
$8.6 million to their own shell company.
What is going on?
We have nothing to hide. My aunt used to tell me, never do something that you don't want on the front page of a newspaper.
Phew. So Candace, so if you've followed any of her stuff, most of the stuff that's in that trailer, if I'm being honest, we've seen before. All right. So most of it I've heard her say in her observations about Erica Kirk. So it'll be interesting to see what she adds to that. But there's more going on here than just that. All right. So this is the Bride of Charlie, which many people are saying is a take on the Bride of Chucky, an old horror film about this little doll named Chucky that used to unalive kids, and then he had a wife for one movie or something like that, right? That's what they're trying to say that this is about. It doesn't really matter because this is happening, at least according to her. One of the reasons why there's some pushback of this, because there's been, let's be clear, I don't know how, there's no handbook on how you're supposed to grieve when someone you love dies. There's no handbook. And we don't see, I don't know how many people we see who are married to someone with the platform like Charlie Kirk, and then how they're supposed to respond, how they responded after it. I'm sure there are people, but my mind is not drawing a blank. But there were things that just seemed weird. Stuff that you wouldn't think a widow of someone would act that way in certain regards. They're just real questions that people have. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions. People do it all the time. Erica Kirk is not off limits because her husband was unalived. We get it. And there can be a period of grief, but let's be clear. Not everyone gets that. Not everyone gets that. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. I'm not saying Candace Owens is right at any of her conclusions. On one level, that's not even the main issue to me, and I'll explain what it is if you stay tuned to the rest of the video. But I mean, I don't know if she's right. I mean, she's asking questions that make sense, and she's presenting some things that make sense, right? But one of the reasons why people are pushing back is because it's this idea of people grieve differently. In fact, in the trailer, Erica Kirk was seen saying people grieve differently. So if something doesn't look this way, look a certain way, then don't think anything of it. But we can't help but do that, right? Like we're just going to do that. Things look a little different to us than how they appear, and we're going to ask questions. It's in our inquisitive nature. But here's what we want to do next. Let's look at the response of conservatives, because I thought this was the most telling of all of it. This doesn't obviously capture all conservatives. We're going to look at two videos of conservatives responding. And the first we're going to look at, I'm not going to be able to monetize this video. There's no way, because I don't even care. I don't even actually monetize many of my videos. But let's look at this response. Let me mind you, this is a family channel, but there's some cursing in this, and I apologize, but we're grown. So hide your kids, hide your wife. I know we're Christians, a believer, maybe you are or not, but I'm not promoting it. This is just the reality of what's happening. We're going to watch a couple minutes of this particular video because I think it does a good job of highlighting some of the response from the conservatives. So let's watch this, and then we're going to talk about the reality of what we just saw. All right, here we go.
If Charlie had friends, they would be standing up for him. Charlie and I sparred at times over his nonstop gatekeeping and holier-than-thou attitude at times. I love how she's shit-talking Charlie as she's trying to defend his wife. But I would never be so depraved as to attack his widow. This is sick and twisted. You'd attack him now that he's not here to defend him.
All right, this is let me make sure this guy talks really fast already. So I'm going to put it on normal speed and just take the punishment from YouTube. Here's the thing that's really telling to me. All right, it says. This is from Laura Loomer, huge conservative. So let me read it, just the part that I thought was really interesting. It says, wow, Charlie Kirk truly had the worst friends. I'm convinced everyone who was friends with him only wanted his money. This is interesting. This is a crazy accusation because she's talking now about the Turning Point USA and whoever else was people who are not saying anything. Listen, none of his so-called friends are standing up for his poor wife as she's viciously attacked. Charlie thought he had friends, he had leeches. Here's the question that you have to ask, though. Right? Here's the question that should be asked. And this is a question that I would want to have asked if it were me, if this were my situation. Hold on. This thing is bothering me. Here's the question you have to ask. Why aren't his friends standing up for him? Like, why aren't they? Like, I have people that if you say things about me that are not true, right? You say things about me that are just untrue. My friends are they're going to say something. They're going to have a problem with it. They're going to say something because it's not true. Why aren't his friends standing up for him? TPUSA is an organization. Candace Owens has already said some of those people weren't his friends. They appeared to be his friends. But why aren't his friends, whoever Laura Loomer is talking about, why aren't they standing up for her, his wife? That's the question to ask. And we don't have an answer, but that's just a question. I would stand up for my friends. But then again, everyone grieves differently, right? Let's keep going.
Himself though, right? Mark Levin says Candace Owens is a monster. Those who defend her are monsters. Those with platforms who are silent are useless cowards. Robbie Starbucks says this is wildly disturbing and inappropriate. What Candace is doing is indefensible and deeply dishonors Charlie's memory. Erica was the love of his life and the mother of his children. He's not here to defend her in a way that he'd want to. He would have gone to war over this. Cat Turd even chimed in saying Candace Owens is pure evil. She's a demon straight from the bowels of hell. That's a little melodramatic. Just the sight of her makes me gag. Listening to her arrogant cringe voice is like nails on a chalkboard. Gunther Eagleman says, whether you are a Candace fan or not, this is evil. Jordan.
Now, this is important. The language is important. This language is important. I'm going to show you in a few minutes why this language is important. Evil, demonic, all this. This is so important. All right, stay with me. This is important. You're going to see why the language here matters. Let's watch a few more minutes of this, and then we're going to talk.
Peterson's daughter says, thought I'd chime in, although it's obvious that this is demonic. Mean high school girl tactics taken to the next level. TikTok is rife with millennial mothers gleefully enjoying this. It's so embarrassing to be female sometimes. I swear we're all not that dumb. Well, I don't think that anybody was saying that, but thank you for pointing that out, Michaela. Pastor Greg Locke says, this is what happens when bitterness is all you drink. I've warned and warned, but people refuse to listen. Real Candace Owens is an extremely evil person. She's bent on destruction. I don't care what you think about Erica Kirk. This is out of bounds. Emily Schrader says, I don't care if you are left or right. If you like Charlie Kirk or think he was awful, if you love Erica or hate Erica, this is beyond the pale of anything that should be accepted in society. Oh, that's rich coming from a fucking conservative. It's targeted harassment, bullying, and incitement against a grieving mother of young children at a level I don't think YouTube should be permitting. Oh, censorship, trying to get her deplatformed. Megan McCain says, pure and adulterated fucking evil. Who in God's name would put a woman whose husband was brutally assassinated in front of the entire world through this? I'm so upset by this. I'm just so deeply sorry Erica and her family have to be put through this.
Here's Dave Rubin saying, is it true Megyn Kelly, the executive producer? Did Tucker fund this with his Qatari money made off the backs of Christian slaves? Just asking questions. So just further conservatives attacking each other, which is pretty wild. And then this is Seth Dillon, who's the Babylon Bee, I think, founder or owner. Just gives this, imagine being Erica Kirk for a moment. You've lost your husband while children are still young, natural causes. And while you're pressing on your mourning, one of your husband's so-called friends begins attacking you. So this is idea of like, this is an empathetic, like imagine if you're her. What are you thinking? Now, let me say a couple things, and then I want to explain to you why that language is important. Why what they're saying about Candace Owens, demonic, evil, and so forth, is huge, all right? First, let me say this. And all of us who have known Candace Owens since she came onto the scene know this. This is always what Candace does. This is always what Candace Owens has done. This is fascinating to me that this is always what she has done. This is not Candace Owens new, improved. This is always what she's done, from the style of attack, from even documentaries. Have we not forgotten? Have we not forgotten this? Remember this? October 12th, 2022, the premiere and streaming release of The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, George Floyd and the Rise of BLM. And it premiered on, it was premiere date Nashville, October 12th, and the streaming release by the Daily Wire, who she was working for. I think she was with them at that time, or maybe she was about to be. She wasn't with them yet. But October 12th. So we see this. This is what Candace has always done. This is not new for her to expose. Now, I'll be honest. I was glad she exposed Black Lives Matter. I was. I didn't trust those women who led the organization. As a Black man who has experienced injustice from law enforcement, I got the hashtag Black Lives Matter. I got it. But I didn't trust them. I wasn't with the move. I wasn't with none of it. Because there was a number of reasons. One, I didn't trust them. Two, they came out and said they support like Yoruba witchcraft, African, and the whole like say the name is actually a religious thing that you're calling back the dead. I was like, oh, this is demonic. Like I'm not banging with this at all. So I didn't support them. They really said we're witches. The three women who led the organization. But you know, George Floyd was just a dude too. George Floyd didn't have a platform. He didn't ask to be beaten by police or killed in that day. He had a daughter and a family and people who loved him. Just because you're a criminal or come from some bad dynamics, people loved him. People cared about him. The whole world erupted as a result of watching what happened to him everyone saw it. It was COVID 2020. We all saw it and people reacted, right? But she did a documentary 2 years later. And if I'm not mistaken, that documentary came out, we had kind of moved on. That was 2 years ago. We had moved on. George Floyd was like May or something, 2020. This documentary drops. So it was like, you didn't even have to drop that documentary, but she was persistent to do that. And all the conservatives, everyone applauded it. Daily Wire released it. Everyone had her back. Have we not forgotten that in January of last year, January 31st, she does a Becoming Bridget series, right, on her channel. February 3rd, she has an episode 1 called Gaslighting the Public appears in listings, right? Remember, Bridget Marcon is the wife of, like, I think the German prime minister. And she's saying she was born a man. And she has a few of these episodes saying that this woman, Bridget Marcon, who's the prime minister, it was born a man, right? February 12th, episode 5, she said, who created Emmanuel Jean-Michel Macron? Saying that's who Bridget Marcon was actually born as, right? In July 23rd, 2025, this is really important. Macron's filed a U.S. defamation suit over Bridget Marcon's accusations, all right? Washington Post reported this recently. As of January 2026, the case is described as a high-stakes defamation lawsuit that is pressing forward and expected to lead a major U.S. trial testing the limits of free speech versus defamation. All right. And then it says this. So far, the Delaware lawsuit against Candace Owens remains pending with jurisdictional fights and amended filings, but no final court decision reported yet. This is Washington Post. So let me ask you a question. Let me say on the front, I don't know if Candace is right or not. When you'll find out in a few minutes, that's not really, I'm not defending her I'm just pointing out what I think of facts. I'm pointing out some facts and you'll see why I'm saying what I'm saying in about 3 minutes. But Candace Owens, think about this. She is doing this documentary against Erica Kirk and TPUSA, the biggest conservative, most spotlighted organization in the world right now. Erica Kirk fits America's vision of beauty, blonde hair, blue eyes, former beauty queen. Candace Owens, regardless of her conservative leanings, is a Black woman. And she has a defamation lawsuit happening right now and still decided to drop this documentary. Candace Owens doesn't seem to be afraid. In fact, she responded to the conservative pushback saying, thank you. Thank you for the love. We couldn't have got here before. She has a defamation lawsuit pending against an international prime minister of a country. And now she's going to release this documentary, which if it's not true, this is clear defamation. This is clear. Why isn't Candace Owens afraid? I don't know, but I would say this. If I knew I was lying, and I'm getting a very public, multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit against me, and if I know that I'm lying, I'm going to own my whole career is going. You have to understand something, whether you agree with Candace Owens or not. Candace Owens' whole career will be finished if she's lying about these things. I'm not saying that proves that she's not. What I'm saying is Candace Owens, whether you like her or not, is a smart, calculated woman. Candace Owens had to know that they would file a defamation lawsuit. So whatever evidence that Candace Owens has against Bridget Marcone, she's ready to go to court with it. Ready to go to court with it. I have yet to hear her back down from it and say I was wrong and back away and apologize because she's afraid of the lawsuit. She said on multiple occasions about Erica Kirk and them, if I'm wrong, file an injunction, file paperwork against me. Let's get it. Like she's inviting the lawsuit. She's not afraid of it. Candace Owens has some money. I think her husband has some bread. I think he comes from money, if I'm not mistaken. But that's still a lot of that. Why would you risk all of that for something you're sure is a lie? That doesn't mean she's telling the truth, but I'm just saying there's so much. I got friends that are pushing back who do cool. If you think I don't think this is godly. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is this is in the realm of investigative journalism, which Candace Owens is known for. There's nothing she's doing right now that she's not known for. The only difference is she's doing it to the conservatives instead of the liberals. That's the only thing here. When George Floyd died, they applauded her efforts. They applauded it with Black Lives Matter. They applauded every time she spoke against Congress. They loved when she met with Cornel West and pushed back on things that he said. They loved it when those things happened. It's like, oh, okay. Now, remember when I said to you, pay attention to the language, demonic, evil, and such and such. Now we're going to watch this video. And if this is true, this is really telling. If this is true, let's listen to this video and then we'll talk about it.
They sent out a script, a literal script with talking points and instructions to flood social media tonight. And the biggest names in conservative media followed it word for word. I have the email, I have the tweets, and I'm going to show you both side by side right now. Have a look here. I'll blow this up. Unbelievable. So in the email, it says verbatim, Candace Owens is evil, pure evil. Now look at Couture's tweet posted hours later. Candace Owens is pure evil. The email says, this is demonic. Graham Allen posts, I'm convinced Candace Owens is a demon. The email says, she's a demon obsessed with destroying Charlie's family. Caleb Hub posts, Candace Owens is a demonic creature. This isn't a coincidence. This is a script. And they read it.
Okay, let me make sure. I don't know if you can see it on your screen. All right. So the top left of this says subject, urgent, shut down Candace's latest smear, action needed, all caps, tonight. And then it says, this isn't journalism, it's pure evil, demonic slander against the widow still in mourning, dragging Charlie's name and legacy through the mud for clicks and clout. Candace doesn't need clicks and clout. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying that she's right. Morally or just informational, right? I don't know. Moral or informational. But she doesn't need clicks and clout, fam. Candace Owens has had that for a long time. And she got it by doing the same thing she's doing now to the left, which I think in some respects, she was dead on. But in some respects, she was wilding all the same, but they didn't care when it wasn't aimed at their side. She said, we've seen her pattern before. You're right. But this time it's personal. It's vicious. And you see what I'm saying? We've seen her pattern before, but this time it's personal, it's vicious, and it has to stop. Talking points. Use these verbatim or close variations. Candace Owens is evil, pure evil. This is demonic, straight up satanic level attack on a widow and her kids. Candace is a demon obsessed with destroying Charlie's family. How can any real Christian stay silent while she attacks Erica Kirk like this? She's not asking questions. She's conducting a witch hunt, right? Then, I mean, this is the language that was sent out to conservatives, and it was sent out by the CU team. I don't know who it is, right? I don't know who this is. Then at the bottom, it says this coordinated push worked against her before. It can bury this trailer before episode 1 even drops. Don't let the discernment crowd spin this as brave truth-telling. It's exploitation of strategy. If you're in, hit reply within, and we'll loop you into the next update. So all that, this is pure evil, demonic. This was a targeted attack is what this lady is promoting. And this is the email that she got, that all these people got. So when you hear that language, and why are they using that language? Because Turning Point USA is a largely conservative, political Christian organization. So you start talking demonic and satanic and all this stuff, you're going to get people to respond viscerally, because as believers, when we hear that, we're like, no, we don't want any of that. Again, I'm not making moral judgment on whether Candace Owens is right or wrong. I don't know, but I think the Lord is doing something else, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm just trying to show you, here's what's going on behind all that. This is demonic and all that stuff. Let her talk for a minute.
Caleb Hub posts, Candace Owens is a demonic creature. This isn't a coincidence. This is a script. And they read it. Hey guys, I'm Delina, and I'm going to have a look at here and just pull back the veil on all this, because this is one of the most blatant, coordinated influence campaigns I've ever seen on social media. So let's go. Let's have a look here. The email landed last night in inboxes. So you have a look here at the subject line. It says, urgent, shut down Candace's latest smear action, needed tonight, signed CU team. Forward only, do not reply all. The last part really matters because it keeps the chain clean. Leave no trail. Now read the talking point section. It doesn't say, here are some thoughts. And that's up there in the bold. You'll see at the very bold top there. It says, use these verbatim or close variations. They wrote the tweets for you. They chose the words deliberately. They used the words demonic, evil, demon, satanic. And those words specifically because the audience they're targeting is Christian conservatives. And that's Charlie Kirk's base. They're not making an argument. They're triggering a reflex. And then the action items, quote this section post, use the exact language, boost Graham Allen's video, tag these specific accounts, Gunther Eagleman, Joel Berry, and then this one, flood the replies. It's crazy. Flood the replies under Candace's defending or neutral post. Do not debate them. Don't counter them. Flood them. Drown them out. Make it impossible. This is not outrage. This is operation management, literally. So let's talk about who actually followed the script. And I'll blow up the post here because these aren't just random accounts.
So you understand how you see, listen, this is important regardless of whether you agree with Candace Owens or not, especially if you're a believer. We're going to get to what I think is what's going on. But like, if you're a believer, this is the stuff that is happening. Remember, they said, do not reply, just forward it to keep it clean, to make it look like all of these people, some of which we've already watched in this video. From a few minutes ago, I showed you when they read different people's accounts, and I said, be careful with pay attention to the language. We've already seen some of that play out. So they're manipulating us, saying that we're from listening to Candace and maybe having questions about things that just seem, and we live in a day and age where I thought it was the great President Trump who called things fake news. So why are we not allowed to take his own declaration of the Epstein files? That's fake news? Is what we believe the FBI said when there's questionable data about who actually unalived Charlie Kirk? We can't use the fake news? Why is it only fake news when it comes from a source that we are supposed to, quote unquote, disagree with? See, if you're a Christian watching this, I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor. We're about truth, fam. We're not about choosing sides. I've said this many times. I have no political leanings here. I don't vote left or right. But if I were, to be honest, I'm more of a conservative in terms of, because I believe biblically, I think there are more things but I can't align with them because I think none of them care about Christ and him crucified. And none of them care about my values. Like, if they really had a conviction to honor the Lord, then they wouldn't do stuff like Trump people saying he's a Christian. This man is the furthest thing from a believer. And so what you see happening is, well, I'm going to explain. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm a preacher. So I start going and getting it in. Let me let her talk a little bit more.
So Turd, hours after posting this, she had 178,000 views. Pure evil, a demon straight from the bowels of hell. Wow. Does that sound familiar? Because you have Graham Allen's tweets, who's also named in the email as someone to amplify. He posts within hours, I'm convinced Candace Owens is a demon. But it gets worse, because then we have Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire. He literally called her demonic. So Ben is literally the guy who built his brand on logic, facts, and debate. Demonic is not one of them. So have a listen here. I'm going to pull him up, and it's absolutely crazy how he just goes after Candace Owens. Have a listen here.
Candace Owens, as you may have heard me refer at the top of the show, is an evil, twisted human being. Now, the reason I say that today is because Candace has spent the last several months attacking the widow of Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk. It took her just a few days after Charlie's sick murder in order to start casting aspersions at Turning Point USA, people who work there all the way up to the highest levels, up to and including Erica Kirk. She was doing that very, very quickly, and she's been doing it for months. I mean, truly for months. I mean, yesterday, she came out with something that she had announced she was doing, which is a series. This is a trailer for a series, a teaser trailer, that is titled Bride of Charlie, which is supposedly now an expose on the evil, nefarious, predatory nature of Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, who again was shot in the neck, not by some sort of vast conspiracy involving French intelligence and Egyptian airplanes, but by a trans-loving gay man who was a...
So I'm just going to say this because I just think I'm going to cat out of the bag, right? Here's why I made the thumbnail that I did, or ChatGPT made it and I didn't, why I'm in the place that I'm in, because there's such hypocrisy here. There's such hypocrisy. George Floyd was nowhere near the character or the stature of Charlie Kirk, but he had a family, he had a daughter, and had to watch these very same people, Candace Owens included, tear down who he was. And even him saying a trans-loving, I don't know if that's true or not, but just even the language is like, here's the reality. And this is why I make these videos, because when you watch these things, when you're theological, when you care more about the politics and it becomes your identity and you're a Christian, and then you use the talking points. Whether George Floyd was a trans-loving man or not, he's made in the image of God. He's made in the image of God. Jesus, in moments where he could have punished even the Roman soldiers who were crucifying him, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In Luke 9, when Jesus told two of his disciples to go ask the Samaritans, can they cut through Samaria to get to Jerusalem? They were like, no way, no way. He can't come through here. And then the disciples came back and said, should we call down fire from heaven? That's a crazy joint. And then Jesus rebukes his disciples. And then in Luke 10, does the parable of the Good Samaritan. That's how you love your enemies. You create a narrative in which they're the hero, and that becomes, in today's modern day language, a good term, the Good Samaritan, right? Like, these folks don't care about what you say you care about. Now, Ben Shapiro's Jewish, I'm not, but everyone does this from Trump on down. And I'm attacking them because the conservatives supposed to be the Christian side who have, and when you're a believer, listen, Christianity is not a religion. It's not a political agenda. Christianity is simply this, imitating a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. That's all that matters. We are imitating him. So we learn obedience the way he suffered. We learn how to persevere. We learn how to do things because we want to please the Father. We're imitating Ephesians 5:1, be imitators of God, right? 1 Peter 2, when he was reviled, he didn't revile in return. These people that you think are such Christians, they will talk about people who are made in the image of God and completely fulfill what James 3 said when he says, brothers, we bless God with our tongues, and in the same speech, curse those who are made in his image. And so many believers think because they disagree with the conservatives or with the liberals and what they stand for, that somehow God is like, yes, curse those people, but he was willing to he rebuked his own disciples for wanting to have consequences come to the Samaritans. Oh man, brothers and sisters, many of you, and I'm not going to say we in this situation, because I'm not going to, for the sake of humility, throw myself in this camp as if I do this. I don't, by the grace of God, I do not struggle with this. I don't believe these people on the right. I don't believe these people on the left. I pray for them and I try to love them. I don't have any, but like there are people made in God's image, and those people, the kingdom is for those folks. The kingdom is for Erica Kirk's and George Floyd's. It's for those people. It's for Bridget Marcone's and Candace Owens's. It's for those people. But these folks, they make you think they value you and care about what you care about. And maybe on a conservative level, sure, but not on a biblical level. But what I'm just talking about the side of my neck. Let me let this girl keep cooking.
Furry. That is the actual story. And because Candace Owens is either going through the throes of mental illness or because she is a sick human being, or both, she has decided that she is going to turn her fire on the widow. Don't believe me? I know. Listen, there are a lot of people who listen to Candace. She has a huge audience. This is what she does. This is who she is. She's a conspiratorial, evil person, because that's who would do something like this. A conspiratorial, evil person. Now, the only reason that I'm playing...
Mind you, the same conspiratorial, evil person Ben Shapiro hired. And Candace Owens said, after she left the Daily Wire, that they encouraged her to attack the left, George Floyd and them. So keep in mind, he said this is what she does, but he hired her. He hired her. Keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying.
This trailer, so you understand the extent of the evil that Candace Owens is perpetrating here. Because obviously I do not wish to promote her propagandistic horror that she is now pushing on a grieving widow with small children. The entire purpose of this is so you understand what Candace Owens is and what she is doing. I have to show you this thing so you understand that I'm not exaggerating, that I'm not making it up, that the thing that I'm saying is a thing Candace is doing. Because otherwise it would be kind of unbelievable. I get this all the time with regard to Candace. I get it with regard to other personalities too, but what happened to her? Does she really mean this stuff? Does she mean the kind of stuff that she says? Take her at her word. Here is what she is doing. Here is the...
So that is Ben Shapiro. And so think about this. This guy who literally built his brand on logic, facts, and about debating, he went with demonic. He didn't go with, I disagree with her methods. He didn't come with any counter evidence because that's what a smart person would do that especially is into debating. If she has her facts, he would come to the table and say, this isn't true, and list all the facts going down. But he literally went with demonic. And that's not an argument. That's a talking point that goes with the email. And that's literally someone else's talking point. So he's just regurgitating what he was been told to say. And have a look at here. This is Dan Bongino, who he literally told Candace to fuck off directly. I'm quoting. He literally said, fuck off, Candace. And this is Dan Bongino, ex-FBI guy, saying to a woman investigating a story that not you're wrong and here's why. He literally just said, fuck off. That's not conservatism. And that's literally a guy that has been protecting pedophiles and Epstein files. And that's who he's going to attack Candace Owens. I haven't heard him talk about Jeffrey Epstein like that, but he's going to tell Candace Owens to literally pretty much go fuck herself. So have a listen here. This is Dan Bongino.
You go yourself, you demonic fucking scum. This just can't be what this movement is. And if it is, I just don't want any part of it. Erica didn't choose this, man. Imagine sitting there in your house and you find out from Twitter or, I don't know, a text or a phone call or that your husband was just shot in the neck for the entire world to see on social media at a public event. I can't imagine that. I know you can't either. Then you got to go through this. Then you got a bunch of absolute fucking lunatics sending her emails. You did it. Fuck you. Go yourself. You demonic fucking scum. For as much as I hate what just happened, I wish ill on no one. And everyone should restrain their emotions from the other side because they are not on our side. Once you go down the road of violence, there's no turning back. But I'm sorry if the language distracts from you, but I can think of no other New York way to say it than fuck you, motherfucker. You deserve to feel the little licks of the flames of hell on every inch of your body. If there's an afterlife, oh, and I believe there is. I believe in the second creation. I don't pretend to be the judge and jury, but I know you're not in it.
Wow. This is a guy, like I said, protecting Epstein. Right. He's going to go after Candace Owens. Really? Like, that's a gatekeeper and he's protecting something. So the question is, what is he protecting other than Epstein? What else is he protecting? And I want to be clear about something. Ben Shapiro does not speak for all of the right. He speaks specifically for his audience. He definitely speaks for his donors and he speaks for his media empire. And increasingly his views, and I did a whole video of this, his views are not what the entire right-wing audience is thinking. A lot of you are watching this right now and nodding because you know that like I said, I did a whole video, his numbers are just falling off. And so are Dan Bongino's. I just looked at his too. It's like ever since he came back to podcasting, because people are striving. They want the truth. That's all they want. So here's the part. And again, this was what makes it so stupid.
All right. So first and foremost, my apologies for the language. Y'all know how I get down, but I just, I'm not using the language, but I thought it was important for you to just see this, to see it for yourselves and hear it in real time. You know good and well I don't ever have that kind of language on this channel, hardly ever, but I just thought for this video, it is what it is. I don't think this is sin against the Lord. I'm just wanted you to see this. But now let's get to the real, just a thought that I've said about conservatives. Again, what we're witnessing this is what I think God is doing. What we're witnessing is a large scale removing the curtain, right? If all the world's a stage, as the great writers Shakespeare has said, then Jesus is removing the curtain. He's opening the curtain. The curtain was torn in two after he died, and he is removing the curtain so that the church primarily can see what we're truly believing in and who we're truly worshiping. This is what he's doing. Let me prove this to you. Let me prove this to you. This is what I think the Lord is doing. Look at this right here, right? This passage, this is where I think it is. This is what's happening right now. It says, I'm going to scroll down a little bit up here. This is what's happening. He says, look, beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed because of the Spirit of glory, and God is upon you. Listen, being insulted because you're a conservative is not being insulted for the name of Christ. So we can't claim that. You can't claim, oh, because the left insults me. That's not about Christ. That's about being a conservative and often being angry and judgmental and all these things, but claiming Christ. He says, but let none of you suffer as a murderer, thief, and evildoer. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed. But then listen to this, verse 17. For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel? And if the righteous is scarcely saved, what will become of ungodly and the sinner? You have to think about this for a second. Peter is writing this. Peter's writing that verse, just after, within decades of Jesus ascending. And he's saying, it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. This is the beginning of the church. The church hasn't even been around this long. Now we don't have any exegetical reason to believe that Peter thinks that the world will be around for another 2,000 years. We have no exegetical reason to believe that. So Peter is writing to the church and saying early on when the church is still being formed, he's saying judgment begins. It's time for judgment to begin in the household of God. That's what he's saying. He's saying it's time for judgment to begin in the household of God. This is a crazy statement. This is what's happening. This is God's emphasis, even from the beginning. It starts with us. Judgment begins with the church. It begins with believers. It begins with God exposing who do we really love? Who do we really worship? And what I mean by that, let me make sure it's clear what I mean. To God, biblically speaking, who I believe in is not what I profess to believe, right? Because Jesus has categories of like, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. That's a real category for Jesus. He has categories of you hypocrites, you clean the outside of the cup, but not the inside, right? He has categories of people who agree with him, like the scribe in Luke 10, but you're not far from the kingdom, right? You have to understand, we have to believe the Bible at face value and not believe the hyperbole that the modern American church imposes on the idea of grace. Grace is not, you can live a pattern of willful disobedience and be forgiven because you made a profession. No, grace is God empowers us to conquer over these things and to have the kind of character that the fruit of the Spirit demonstrates. That's what he's after. He's not after people who say, I believe in Jesus, but then I choose Barabbas, right? We choose Barabbas a lot, and we see this happening. So judgment begins now. God cares about his people. He cares about his people. Let me tell you why I think this is happening as well. Here's the reality. Let's go to this passage. In Mark 4, Jesus does a parable of the sower, right? Now, you know this parable well. So I'm going to skip down to what the parable means. There are 4 seeds, and these are the gospel is preached, is sown in people, and there are 4 different people groups that respond, right? And the first group, Jesus explaining to his disciples that these are the people that who just do not believe. They hear the gospel and they don't believe it. Jesus says that these are the people who, when they hear, Satan immediately comes and takes away the word that is sown in them, right? That's what he says. And then he said, these are the ones, then he said the ones sown on rocky ground. He said the ones who hear the word immediately receive it with joy, and they have no root in themselves, but endure for a while. Then when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately fall away. So these are the people who over the last 5 years, we've seen all this deconstruction. People deconstructing their faith, walking away from Jesus, worship leaders, former pastors, different people, right? Jesus is saying, look, there are people who will hear the word, respond with joy. And he said, but they're not really rooted. They don't really have a conviction to really obey Jesus, right? But they believe in it. And he says, look, he said they have no root, but endure for a while. So these people will hang in there. They're not rooted, but you can hang in there for a while. But when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, they fall away. When it comes time to really say, I'm going to actually pray for my enemies. I'm going to love the people that I disagree with politically or whatever it is, because that's what it demands. Those people can't do that. Jesus says, love your neighbors, and you got the bride moving out. I'm moving away from my neighbors, right? Then he said this, and others are the ones sown among the thorns. They are those who hear the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches and the desires for other things enter in and choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. Brothers and sisters, I promise you, as God is my witness, I believe wholeheartedly that this description is describing many within the modern American church. We are the third seed. I'm not worried about what church in Revelation are we. We're the third seed. Think about this. It says the ones sown among thorns, they hear the word, but the cares of the world, right? The cares of the world can be anything, can be country, politics, defending America, our boy. It can be all these things. And understand, I'm not saying if you care about those things, you're sinful. Here's where it becomes a problem. Here's how Jesus described it. So you got the cares of the world, the deceitfulness of riches. That's all America talks about. That's all Trump talks about is money, riches. We're the most economic. Remember Pam Bondi when they were asking about Epstein? But the Dow, like as if like the Dow Jones, the money, like look the other way because of the money, because the economy is what the cares of this. And then it says, look, and the desires for other things. It says they choke the word. What's happening, what you're seeing happen among many believers is they had genuine faith, but these categories, right, have choked out the word, and it's grown into something else. It's something else. You think it's Christianity because people profess. It is not. And here's the difference. Because look, Jesus said, but those that were sown on good soil are those who hear the word and accept it, and it bear fruit. How do you bear fruit? You obey Jesus. Not you have a political agenda. Not you agree with certain things. He says you obey Jesus. What is it? Remember this. Remember this. Sons and daughters that are believers, listen to me. Remember this. Jesus said to his own disciples, he said, you are my friends if you obey my commandments. Right? If you obey my commandments, you are my friends. That's what he said, right? Keep in mind who he's saying that to. These are the men who walked with him, who spent the last 3 years with Jesus. They've done miracles. They've walked on water. They've done many things with Jesus. And Jesus is telling that he didn't say, you were my friends because you spent the last 3 years with me. You were my friends because you saw me feed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. You were my friends because no, he said, you were my friends if you obey my commandments. He's telling the disciples that. But we live in a culture where everyone's a Christian because they have certain values. We don't care about Judeo-Christian values. We care about the blood and resurrection of Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit that is in us, that leads us with a grace. And Titus 2, where grace trains us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions. And that is not what's happening in the modern. Many of the popular Christian platform epistemologians, they all care about politics. They care about what's happening to the country. In Isaiah 66, God said, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Footstool. But we see we're being led astray. We're being led to hate other people who we disagree with. Judgment is beginning. God is exposing what's happening here. He's exposing what is happening. So for me, I don't really know what Erica Kirk did or didn't do. I don't know. I don't know if Candace Owens is right or not. I'm not condemning her. I'm not cheering her on. What I'm excited about is the hypocrisy that God is revealing, because I desperately want people like you, sons and daughters who are watching this now live and will watch it later. I want sons and daughters. I want my church to not fall victim to all these things. God is sovereign. I'm not saying if you have some semblance or you care or you vote a certain way, vote your conscience, but don't lose your conscience for a vote. You see, when you, wherever your treasure is, Jesus said that your heart will be also. So if I really care more about what happens on earth, then I'm going to try to preserve those things. And guess what? My morality, my commitment to holiness, my commitment to obedience, those are all going to be connected to what I care the most about. So if I care more about what's happening in the country, then I'm going to develop the character of the politicians that I subscribe to. I'm going to agree because I care about what's happening in the world more than what's happening in eternity. I care about that. My character is going to follow who I care about. And when you care about what's happening in the country, then your character will follow suit. And you will have to have enemies against the people who do not care about the country the way you care about the country. This is what's happening. Your character will follow what you care about. This is why Jesus said, lay your treasures up in heaven, because where your treasure is, your heart will be. That's Matthew 6, 19 through 21. Colossians 3 says, set your mind on things above, where Christ is seated at. Why? Because where your mind is set, where your heart is, what you care about will determine your character. And many people make a profession of faith, but what they care about is the profession on earth. They don't think about eternity. If you look at Revelation chapter 2 and 3, do this when you stop watching this video. So you could do it now if you want. God's word trumps with anything I'm saying. You look at those. Let me tell you 2 characteristics you will see in all 7 letters, right? One will be this: he who has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Every letter. You'll see that in every letter, right? Here's the second thing that's in every letter: the phrase "to the one who conquers." And he corrects 5 of the 7 churches, but he says, he who has an ear to all 7, and to the one who conquers, he's speaking to all 7. So the he who has an ear, he's not just talking to the church, he's saying anyone who can hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. And here's what's crazy. Jesus is the one talking, and he says who hears what the Spirit says to the churches. That's a different video. But the point is this. He says to the one who conquers, and he lists rewards for each church. Every single one of those rewards you can only receive in eternity, in heaven. You can't get them here. Go look at Revelation 2 and 3. And if you don't feel like it, go to ChatGPT and be like, list all of the rewards given to the 7 churches in Revelation. Every single one of them you can only get in eternity. What does that mean? When you couple it with set your mind on things above, when you couple it with lay your treasure up in heaven, you know what that means? Is God, Jesus, the Spirit, all 3, they want us to want things that we can only get in eternity. But when you care about what happens in this world, when you care about the state of the country so much, when you care about tax breaks and things, when you care about healthcare, when you care about things that have no relevance in eternity, then you want your blessings here where moth, rust, and thieves can steal. And the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And if I'm sure I'm wrong, but I'm watching him steal the salvation of a lot of professing Christians, not because they're walking away from the faith, right? There's 2, I'm ending with this. There's 2 kind of walking away. You can disagree with this. I honestly don't care. You can disagree. I'm not making a theological point that you need to agree with. This is what I'm saying. There's 2 kinds of walking away. You have Hebrews 6 is what we would normally call apostasy, where someone hears, they've tasted of the fruit of this life. They grew up, they've been in church, they've been in conferences, they've read, they've prayed, they've cried during worship, they've confessed. He says, those people, he said, they can walk away from the faith. Now, we're not, were they really Christians or not? That's not the point, because they appeared to be to us, right? He said, those people walk away from the faith, Hebrews 6. That's one way of walking away. Then you get to Hebrews 10, 26 to 30. For if we sin deliberately, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins. He says, God says, you outrage the spirit of grace because you trample the Son of God. So there are people who will not walk away from Christianity, but they will not have the character that Christianity calls for. They will sin deliberately. You can do that simply by insulting other people consistently who don't agree. Matthew 5, Jesus said, if you insult your brother and say, you fool, you are liable of hellfire. Sons and daughters, you don't have to agree, but just open your eye, pay attention, pray and see if I'm right. Look at the scriptures. The Lord is letting us see all this stuff is not even about, did Erica Kirk have something to do with it? In the grand scheme of eternity, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is, where are you at in your relationship with the Lord? All this stuff about the end times of Revelation, it could be true. We could be at the last seconds of the last days, and people are so caught up in it. And it's like, but if you're watching the signs, how are you living? How do you live? Is your prayer life better? Is your holiness better? Are you resisting sin more? That's what matters, sons and daughters. But what do I know? What do I know? I just do videos occasionally, and I'm trying to just spread some knowledge. Like and subscribe to the channel, or don't. I'll be back soon with another joint. There's much to talk about, but I thought, let's put this out there. The Bride of Charlie, I'm sure it's going to make Erica Kirk look bad, and it could be right. Candace Owens ain't afraid of the lawsuit, that's for sure. Could be true, maybe not, but I don't care ultimately. What I care about is, how am I living in light of the distraction that I'm seeing? That's what God cares about. Take it, do what you will with it. Always appreciate you hanging out, riding with me. See you soon, Lord willing.